All right, now the next step is to fit the 1x2 on the outside and the inside, and to do that we've got to make a little piece of that same 1x2 inside here to fasten to. So what we want to do is go back to we've got 6 of these 1x2s left here. So what I'm going to do, the other 2 shorter, we're going to end up shorter ones, fits down here for a seat riser. So right now I need a piece about 14 inches long. I'm just going to square cut both ends, and I'm going to take that off of 2 of the pieces that are over there. Like I say, they will end up, they'll be too short to do this, but they'll be long enough to do the seat riser that stops at this last frame. So we'll go over here 14 inches and we'll cut this off. All right, now I've cut the 14-inch piece, square cut, and we're going to come over here and fit it right up against this frame, hold it flush at the top. And then I'm going to take one of these C-clamps, just catch it in the middle, make sure it's flush on the top. If you're not sure about that, you can always hold that square on there and just make sure it's up to the top. Catch this in, drill this in here, and we're going to put the 1¼ inch screw again here. Don't go too far, you don't want the point coming out. And one up in the middle toward the front, maybe an inch or so back. All right, that's good. And then we'll do the same thing on this side and get it ready. We've got the 1x2, now we're going to bring it over here, and I'm just going to shove it up to the front, put it inside there, and this is just to get a rough length and to make sure we're long enough, but I'm actually going to shorten it slightly in the back, and I'm just going to catch it there. That's really enough to do it. And then I'm going to come back here off of the back of the boat to get the bevel, because it has to fit down in there on a compound bevel. It's got to fit just like these frames did. I'm going to take this angle here, I'm going to go inside now, and I'm going to mark this piece about a ½ inch short of where it is now. It's just to make sure I've got enough room for it to go down, and it doesn't have to fit tight at the front. So I've marked that now, and then I also have to get the other direction, which will go on the top, but to mark that I've got to take it out of here, so I'll go ahead and turn it loose up here. Just set it there for a minute. That's the angle we just took off the top in here. And I'm going to mark that right there. And I'm actually going to mark it on this side too. Make sure I did it the right way. Yep, I did. So what that's going to do is fit down that compound. It's going to fit right inside, flush with the top of the planking, not this. And I'll show you in a minute when we'll get that mark in there. And then that, all right, I've made my compound cut now. And where I want it, like I said, it needs to be down in line with this. So the simplest thing is just put a little line across there. And then it's going to be right here where it comes across there. So now that inside here, kind of like that. That's about the height. It might be a little bit low, but that's okay till I get started here. What I'm going to do is just I'm going to catch a clamp right here. For now, not too tight. And then I'm going to come back with another clamp back here. I'm going to try to get this up so it's right on that line we were talking about that I just put there. And I'm going to catch it just a little bit forward, so if I get to the point I can drill and screw in there. And just forward of it, take a little pressure on there, and you can see I'm a little bit short there now, but I'm on my line here. So what I'm going to do, if I can find it, I got my hammer. You can do any kind of little pry bar or anything, and come up here. Might want to put another clamp on it. Let's try it though. And then I just pinch it back. Here and see if that's fitting where you want it. Yeah, that worked all right. Now I actually need to go down just a speck, so now I'll get my hammer again. All right, we've gotten that screw in there, like I said, by squaring in with this slip square. And now we come down here, I put another clamp here. And just snugged it a little bit, not too much, but enough so we can bump it down. And we'll check this thing right here. And if that needs to go down just a speck, maybe a tiny bit, what I'll do is right here, just knock it down a little bit, check it again. And that's dead on there now, touching on this inside a little bit. And sometimes it's handy to put a little mark so in case it slips you can get back to it. And then I take the countersink bit that you've got and I will drill that. Putting an inch and a quarter, put an inch and a quarter in these here. And then we go on to the next one, and what you'll see is, obviously I can't drill this, so I'll just move this down to the next one. And do the same thing here. Checking again. Doing this, you need to do them all the way down one at a time because you want to be sure it's pulled back in. See, we've still got a little slack up here, and as we pull that down, do it one at a time, you'll find that it'll fit in. If you came up here and put one, you'd have a big bow in the middle and then you wouldn't be able to get it in. So that's why we do them one at a time, and you've got a little bit of slack up here. We're going to cover this, we're going to cover what we do here, covering this up in a little bit. As you see, we've been cutting off these little stubs. This is the time we can do that now. And you can see down with this inwale in there. And now you want to go straight across. And that's it, just go right on. finished fitting these pieces in. These two pieces are still a little bit loose, so we can pull them up to this when the time comes. But the next thing we're going to do is make this breastwork piece that's going to cap this all off, which is why we didn't have to fit tight in there. And you can see it's the one with the about an 11-degree angle up in the front. And what you'll want to do is put it up here and get it to fit to the outer stem, the back side of it. And it should be pretty close. If you don't like it, if it's off a whole lot, you can just dress that a little bit and get it to fit that little bit right there. But I would suggest that we put that on. Underneath here, just put your pencil right up at that top edge, right there, and draw a line, and then just make a square cut. If you've got a power saw you want to use or whatever to do it, or you can just use your hand saw, it will go right on down there. And then I would suggest then that we fit that one side, put it on here again, make sure all that lines up, make sure you're happy with this. If you want to mess with this, that'd be the time to do it. And then we scribe the other side and cut that so we end up with a triangle here. So I'm going to go do that, and then we'll see how it all fits. All right, I've cut both sides out like we talked about. I came back and I held that on this side, like I said, and checked everything. All that was good. Just right in line there. And then I came over here and marked this, cut this the same way. So we've got it now so that it'll fit on there right where we want it. And now we're going to get ready to screw this down on here, and then we'll be starting on the rub rails on the outside. All right, now we're getting ready to put on the two rub rails, the two outside rails. I've still got one here. I've actually got one that I cut a sample one to show you how it's going to end up and why I'm doing everything. Let's take a quick look at that. Right here I've made a bevel cut for this direction and the bevel cut the other way, this way and that way on first. And then we'll come back and do this cut because I want to leave about 1/8 of an inch of meat on that, and then that's going to go on in. Now I don't want to just fasten one. I want to get one cut and just clamped on temporarily, and then the other one cut, and I'll show you how I cut that one. And I do my bevel gauge again, come in here, get that angle. And let's say that's going to be just like it's showing there. That's that cut. And then I want to come in this way. That's going to go right on there. Coming across. Let me think about that for a second. Yeah, that's right. And when that goes up there, well, we'll actually make that other cut. So let me make that cut, and then we'll come back and do the one going that way. All right, I want to do that other cut back this way now. I made the other cut, and that just wants to come in. And so I'm just taking this angle off of here. And remember, we want to leave that little 1/8 of an inch or so right here. Let's go back over here where I was cutting. And you want to think about this, make sure you don't cut it in the wrong direction. That's going to go on the boat up against the stem, is going to hit here. And then I want to come back on that angle like the other opposite of the other side. And I'm doing about 1/8 of an inch to leave that one little hard spot there, about 1/8 of an inch. And then we come off of that angle that we had, cut down there with the saw. All right, we've gotten the two pieces, these end cuts, so they kind of match up. They look pretty good. I've got them hung on the boat now, and so what I want to do is see, I want to make sure I get them in the right place up here, and we want to cover that seam just slightly, and that'll go up there to it, like that. But this side, I was messing with that, trying to get it to come in and hit the stem, outer stem, and it does right now. It's right where I want it. So what I'm going to do first off, and I put, just to look at it there, I'm going to put a mark on that side so I get back to it. So I've got a little mark on here now, and it gets me up over that up over that seam. And now I've got a 2-inch screw here, and this is hard to clamp this in place. So get everything together, and then what I have to do is basically hold it on my mark, and then I'm going to go right straight in with a 2-inch screw. There it is on the mark. Now, what I've got on the other side, I'm not quite ready to put that one on there just yet. I'm going to want to get the height where I want it, which is right about there on the height. I'm going to put a mark over here so I've got something to go to. But it needs to come forward. All right, we want to be able to tap this thing forward here a little bit, so I've put clamps on here, so a couple of them up here, semi-tight, not real tight, because I want to be able to let it slide, but it's got to be almost to where it can't slide. And I've added another one down here, and then I can kind of hold it back here when I hit it. So you can watch up there and see, you might be able to see it actually move. I don't want to do a whole lot. Alright. Let me check it now. Not bad. Alright. Now, alright, we finished putting the rub rails on both sides, and now we just want to cut them off. We've same with the same process we've been doing, and go from there. And then when we get done with that, probably walk around and up a little bit. Earlier, we had cut two pieces off to put up in the front off of the 1x2s that we still got on the bench, there for the seat riser, as we had explained. Now that seat riser is put in here 7 inches down from the shear line, which is essentially this same surface. So what I do to conveniently mark those is I take this slide square and I come over 7 inches, and then just by sitting it on here and holding it down at the bottom, that's the top of that seat rail. So the seat rail will go down that way, and I go right down the line and mark each one of these frames. And then we'll come back and show you how to cut the seat rails in there. All right, we've got this clamp over here now, the last two of these. And what we want to do is make a cut back in here, just like the cut we have up here. So you can take the numbers right off of this one. So I'm just going to go back to that. Put a mark on there, and then this cut the same way. It's a little bit different. So it's going to be up like that. And then we'll go ahead and cut that off. Get it down where I can get it a little bit better, but at any rate, do the same thing like we've been doing right along. All right, we've made the cut on the end, and we're still long there. We'll cut it later on when it's inside. And now this one is a little bit tight, but that's fine. That'll actually help me some. See, I go down in the back there and try to get that pretty close on the line. I will be able to adjust it some. And then I have put a clamp here that you can see, a C-clamp down good and tight. And what I can do then is shove this thing back in there and then take a scrap piece of wood, and that'll hold it in there temporarily. And get back up. That's okay, we'll get to that in a little bit. And then what we'll do is that it'll give forward, goes down onto the line in there. Now, because we're having to push that back in there, I'm going to get up in the boat. Make it a whole lot easier to push on that. And get the 1 5/8 screws here. And what I'll do is actually hold that right on the line. Got that one under control, and then I'll just work my way down the line. That's laying in pretty good. And we'll just work our way down. All right, we've gotten the end cut here ready to go, and I had already checked my length. I cut enough off here so that it fits inside and gets down to there. Now what I've rigged up here, when you're working by yourself or even with another person, this is a handy little trick, is you can put your C-clamp down onto the thing. Make sure you're down low enough so that you can get this to work and not get hung up in this other piece. Just drop a stick in there or whatever. I think that's good enough for now. That allows us to get this in here. Let me give it a try. What I do is inside here, and then that's about the height. And then I come back, I can see where my height is, where we marked the 7 inches before. Shove it against the transom, just bring it around inside of here. Then I think I can even get that in a little bit tighter by shifting that. And that's close. And then what I'm going to do, check it back here, make sure it fits. It looks good. So what I've got to do now, I'm going to get up in the boat because it's a whole lot easier for me to get in there and shove that thing back in there. So here goes nothing. using the 1 5/8 screws on these. But this is the seat riser, this is what's gonna hold the seat up in there. And I can hold that thing just by twisting it in there. I can hold it right on that line. Drill with the countersink bit again. Just like we've been doing the clamp and the rub rail. All right, now we'll work our way down here. All right, we've gotten the clamp screwed in place, and now we come up here and we're going to trim this off inside, and I like to go maybe an inch, inch and a half past the frame here. I'm just going to mark that at an inch there and an inch over here, and then I'll do a square mark down. Same thing on the other side, and if you want to, you can do one just to kind of keep a guide on it so you get a good cut in there, and then the same thing, you can sand it up, round it up a little bit so it's not just a sharp edge there. And so then what I'm going to do, if I can do it from here as a right-hander, all right, now it's time to fit the seats in. I've gotten out the 3 pieces that you have, the rear, the center, and the forward seat. And what I suggest doing is starting with the center seat and getting it in there, and then you can measure off of that to the other 2, make sure that they all stay parallel. And what we've decided on the 14-foot boat, if you take and measure right from the back side of the stem, inner stem up there on the keel, come back here 76 inches, and I'd put a mark there earlier, 76 inches. That gets you in between these 2 frames, and then you should be able to get this in, but it might be a little too tight to get in, because if you just drop it down there, it doesn't want to fit in, you can't get it in. But what I do is come up to the top everywhere and then drop it down in. It should go in. If it doesn't, all you need to do is maybe take your saw and take a minimum amount off of one corner. You can see how close you're going to be with it. Get it down in there, and then what I do, you can check some measurements, but you've got your boards going straight across the boat. You can almost line that right up with you can look down, see the 76 inches, and kind of line it up with that seam in the planking, and that should be pretty darn close. Now you can measure back there if you want to, and I've already done that anyway, so I know pretty much where it is. But you can measure from back there if you want to make it square, but if you just line up with that, you're in good shape. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to mark, this is where I want to be, I'm going to mark each side of this, and I'll do the same thing over there. But while I'm here, then what I do, because we're going to have to make a cut on the end to get it to follow the shape of the boat. You can take a little 3/4 inch stick, seems to work pretty well, lay it up against there, trace a line there, trace a line, same thing on the other side, and then we'll take that back out, make those cuts, and we'll go ahead and fasten this one in, and then what we can do is measure from this one, and I'll show you how we lay out the front one and the back one. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut it, and get it back out the same way it came in, and I'll take the saw. You can use the pull saw, or you can, if you got a little bigger saw, or even a power saw if you want, you can use that to cut it off. All right, we made the cuts on each end. Make sure you get the narrower side going forward. Just look at it, you'll be able to see it. It'll go in easy this time because you've cut all that wood off. And then I go back to my marks on each side and my little stick there, of course, is in the wrong place. And this gets you pretty close because that's what you use to mark that thing with. And then I go over there and do that one. And then what I do is I like to put a little clamp on here, just easy, just to hold that thing in place while we're setting everything in. And I need to go over there and do that one the same way. Right there. That'll just hold it in there. And then I'll drill that, come in about an inch, and I like to be in line with this top edge, right straight down into that thing on this front, almost the front corner of that, and you can see where that is. But you want to get into that piece of wood and not down the side of it. I'm going to go over there and do that one at the same time because all my stuff's over here. Put a screw in this one. Screw over there and put it in the other one. All right, for the front seat, now what we're coming up 1, 2 in the third space here, but this is the piece. They're going to be cut 33 inches long. So what we need to do is make a cut, and what you can do, again, referencing to the seams in the bottom and the chine shape here, I'll put that right down there, and I'm in line with the side there. Come to your full length, put a line on it, go to the other end, do the same thing, and then just extend your line across. And then cut that off just like you cut those two ends off, and then we'll come back and see how this works. All right, we've cut this. Again, obviously which way it goes in. And I'm going to set that in there kind of where it goes. And then I'm going to measure. We'll get it going that way, but we need to measure up in here. What I do makes it easy now. We've got that seat in. We just measure up here. Oh, let's say 55 inches. I've got it right there, 55 inches. And a little bit there. 55 inches. We'll mark that there and there. And then we'll have to, we want to kind of check this thing out. Let's just measure back here. That's about 1 1/8 off of there. And that's about 1 1/8 off of there. That's pretty good. So, and then we're going to drill this the same way, going kind of into that edge there, so that you're into that piece. 2 in here. Let me slip a clamp on there just like we did before.